The first day of college always smelled like new beginnings and rain. The air outside was crisp, the marble corridors gleamed under the rain, golden lights and faint laughter echoed from every direction. You could feel the tension in your chest, that mix of excitement and nerves that came with stepping into a place where nobody knew your story yet. Inside the classroom, your friends were already seated. Mina, the loud one with too much confidence, and Hannah, sweet but with the kind of mischief that always got others into trouble. Wine, this place feels so serious. Everyone's walking like they are auditioning for a drama. Yeah, we need to listen the mood. Maybe we should do something fun. You raised a bro, very fun, a dare. You've grown already regretting it. Mina, it's literally our first day. I would rather not get kicked out before lunch. Come on, it will be harmless. Just kiss whoever walks toward the door first. Excuse me. You heard her. First person who walks in, quick peck, no questions, no backing out. You scoff, leaning back in your chair. You two are insane. Mina only grinned wider, or maybe you are scared. That word did it. You hated being called that. You crossed your arms. Why, school? Fine, I'll do it. Wait, seriously? Feigning confidence, even as your heart thudded. Yeah, but if it's the janitor, you are both buying me lunch for a week. The girls burst into giggles, and just as you were rolling your eyes, the door creaked open. Without looking up, you stood already playing along with the dare. The sound of heavy footsteps filled the silence, low and mired. You could feel Mina and Hannah holding their breath behind you. And before logic caught up, you reached forward, grabbed the front of the man's shirt, and pulled him down. Your lips met his. It was supposed to be a quick, teasing kiss, but the sound your lips brushed against his, the air shifted. It wasn't soft, it wasn't innocent. His body went completely still, and then his hand caught your wrist, firm, commanding. The heat of his touch burned through your skin. You froze slowly, you opened your eyes, and the word stopped. The man standing in front of you wasn't a student, he wasn't anyone your age. He was tall, broad shouldered, beneath a fitted black dress shirt, sleeves rolled just enough to reveal veins along his forearms. His gaze stark, steady, unreadable, locked with yours. You could feel the weight of it heavy enough to silence the entire room. His jaw flexed once before he spoke, voice deep, smooth, and cold, enough to slice through the tension. That's quite a way to greet your professor, miss. You're playing professor. The blood drained from your face as Mina choked on her laughter and Hannah muttered, "Oh my god, he let go of your wrist." Slowly, as if disgusted by your touch, yet his eyes lingered for too long. Miss Wine, I presume you nodded, throat dry. Yes, sir, take your seat. His tone was clipped, controlled, but you caught it. That flicker in his gaze, that tiniest shift like he was trying to erase the memory already born into his mind. You sat down silently, every nerve in your body on fire. As he set his books on the desk, you noticed the faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. There and gone too fast to be sure. Mina leaned closer, whispering with wide eyes. Why, and that's your physics professor, Jungkook, the one everyone's scared of. You groan under your breath. Of course he is. Well, at least you made a memorable first impression. You shot her a glare, whispering sharply, I'm dead. Across the room, Professor Jones looked briefly, his eyes meeting yours once again, cold, calculated, but something about them said he wasn't done with you, not yet. Ever since that humiliating first day, things in Professor Jones' class had changed and not in your favor. He didn't yell, didn't scold, that would have been easier. Instead, he punished you with silence, the kind that made your stomach twist whenever his gaze brushed over you. Every morning, he entered the room precisely on time, dark suit, unshakable posture, expression carved in stone. The entire class would rise in quiet reverence. You had looked down, pretending to write, but your heartbeat would betray you loud and unsteady. Miss Vine, equation number 5, solve it. His tone was always the same sharp clipped, mercilessly calm. You had walked to the board, marker trembling slightly in your hand as 20 eyes followed you. When you stumbled over the formula, his voice would slide through the air. Wrong again. He had taken the marker from your hand, his fingers brushing yours for only a second, just enough to make you forget how to breathe. And then he had write the solution flawlessly without looking at you. He had said, after class, we will correct your concepts properly. Mina would always whisper from the back, half amused, half worried. He's totally picking on you. Yeah, or he's obsessed. I can't tell which one is scarier. You heard his under your breath, he hears me out of story. But deep down, you were not sure if you believed that. The classroom would empty slowly, students whispering and shooting you paying glances as they left. He'd sit at his desk flipping through papers, not looking at you. You stood near the board, arms crossed, every time stretching like an eternity. Finally, he had speak. You have been distracted lately, Miss Wine. You swallowed hard, maybe because my professor keeps making me stay late. He looked up, eyes cold and unreadable, then focused better. Maybe you will finish on time like everyone else. You frowned, you were doing this on purpose. He leaned back in his chair slightly, voice lower, quieter. I'm doing my job. The silence after that was unbearable. You could hear the soft tick of his watch, the faint rain tapping against the window again, and then as you bent to collect your notes, his hand brushed yours just barely. A spark shot up your arm so violently you dropped your pen. For the first time, his expression faltered, a tiny flicker of guilt or something else before his voice hardened again. Careful, maybe you should stop touching me then. He went still, his jaw tightening, then softly, if only it were that simple. You froze, he cleared his throat immediately, cold mask returning. You may leave. You left her racing, head spinning, pretending not to notice the way his eyes followed you until the door shut behind you. Over the next few weeks, you caught him watching you not often, not obviously, but enough to make you wonder if you were imagining it. In the lab, he had stand beside you to explain an experiment, his voice close, low, too calm. When his hand reached over yours to adjust a measurement, you could feel every nerve in your skin burn. He had immediately stepped back as if the distance itself was his only form of self control. Okay, he definitely stares at you. Yeah, and you definitely like it. He's my professor, not some fantasy. You sighed defeated. I wish he had just ignored me like a normal human, but he never did. He called on you more than anyone, graded you the hardest, every paper written with red ink, too emotional, imprecise, lacks logic. You started failing the small tests not because you didn't know the answer, but because every time he stood near you, your brain forgot the question, and then the whispers began, students teasing, joking. Hey, why maybe if you bat your lashes, he will bump your grade. She's definitely his favorite. You try to laugh it off, but the burn in your chest wouldn't fit. You started sitting farther back in class, avoiding his gaze, but it didn't help. You could feel it, his attention steady, constant. One evening, when the hallways were nearly empty, you opened your locker and something slipped out, a folded note written on plain paper in clean, neat handwriting, no name, no signature. Be careful what you play with, little one. Fire burns both ways. You read it twice, pulse quickening. What is that supposed to mean? You stared at the words, the corner of your mouth trembling. I don't know, but you did. You knew exactly whose handwriting it was. Rain hammered the roof of the science building that night loud enough to drown out your heartbeat. You shouldn't have been there after hours, but the questions had eaten at you all week. The note, the strange glances in the hallway, the way Professor June vanished right after every class. The office door was slightly ajar, light spilled across the floor, and voices murmured on the other side. Low, clipped, dangerous. You recognized his at once. No, the shipment leaves tonight, no names, keep it clean. And the man responded, voice distorted by static. Then silence, you push the door open just enough to see him standing there, not in his usual pressed shirt and tie, but a black coat, gloves, and a look that didn't belong to a professor at all. He turned at the sound of the door. Why in shipment? What shipment? He blinked once, slow, then set the phone down. You shouldn't be here. You're not just a teacher, are you? He didn't answer. The air between you thickened, tension coiling like wire. Everyone talks about that anonymous donor who funds half the university. Is that you? A muscle in his jaw twitched. Go home. You are involved in something, Jungkook. I have seen the men waiting outside campus, the cars that follow you. Stop. His tone cracked, cold enough to make you flinch. Then softer, almost a whisper. You don't understand what you have stepped into. You stared at him, heart pounding, then make me understand. For a long moment he said nothing, then quietly crossed to the window, staring out at the rain. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of something old, regret, maybe even pain. Before I taught here, I worked with an organization that moved things people were not supposed to see, documents, codes, people. Call it intelligence, call it logistics, the label doesn't matter. What matters is that I got out. At least I tried to. Then why are you still involved? He turned to face you fully now, eyes darker than you had ever seen them. Because people like me don't just walk away wine, and the moment you kissed me that first day, you became a variable I couldn't control. Your breath hitched, that's why you have been so cold. He laughed once bitterly. Cold is the only way to keep you safe. You shook your head. That's not fair. You can't treat me like I'm the problem. He took a slow step toward you, stopping just close enough that you could feel the tension radiating off him. His voice dropped to a whisper, low, rough, and almost trembling. You think I'm cruel, wine, but you have no idea how many times I stopped myself from reaching for you. The words landed like thunder. For a second, he looked like the same man you had seen that first day, calm, untouchable, but now the mask was cracked beneath the control was a storm, then stopped pretending. He exhaled sharply, stepping back before he could say anything else, his expression hardened again. Pretending is what keeps you alive. Then he picked up his coat and left you standing there, torn between fear and the impossible pull that bound you to him. After that night, he stopped looking at you during lectures, but even with his eyes averted, you felt the tension humming between you like static. When he spoke to you, his tone was colder than ever, a wall of control that only made you more certain it was hiding something dangerous underneath. You didn't see the moments when his composure cracked. He had lingered in the empty classroom long after everyone had left, eyes fixed on the desk where you sat. The smallest thing would trigger the memory of faint trace of your perfume in the corridor, the soft echo of your laugh, and every time that single moment replayed in his mind, the warmth of your lips, the shock of it, the way his body had betrayed him by not pulling away. He told himself it had been nothing, an accident, a student's foolish stare, but the memory refused to fade. It clung to him sharper than any sin he had confessed. It should have meant nothing, he thought, but it still lives under my skin. One evening you came to return a graded paper. He barely looked up when you placed it on his desk. You didn't mark question 4. I didn't. He reached for the sheet, fingers brushing yours. You froze. So did he. The contact lasted less than a heartbeat, but it felt like a spark catching dry leaves. He drew back at once, voice rougher than before. You shouldn't stand so close. You keep saying that, but you never move away first. His gaze flicked up then, and for once he didn't hide the exhaustion in his eyes, the sleepless nights, the battle he had been fighting with himself, because distance stopped working the day you kissed me. The confession was quiet, almost a growl. He straightened, forcing the control back into his posture. Go before I forget what is right. You hesitated, then turned to leave, your pulse still racing. Behind you, he sat perfectly still, hands clenched, jaw tight, as if he would discipline his own heartbeat. He wasn't addicted to the act itself. He was addicted to the memory, the one moment that had reminded him he was still capable of feeling something real. The universe still looked different in spring. The ivy had begun to creep up the walls again. The courtyards were filled with light instead of shadows, and the rain that once echoed through every corridor had finally eased into warmth. It had been months since that night when everything unraveled, when the secret Jungkook had buried finally dragged him into the open. You remembered the fear, the unmarried smell of danger, the moment he had told you to run, and then he was gone. For weeks, you came to class and found his desk empty, the nameplate missing. Rumors said he had left the country, that he had gone back to whatever dark network he had once tried to escape. You stopped believing he had returned until the day you found a small note tucked into your old locker. Meet me where it began. The classroom was empty when you stepped inside. The same faint scent of chalk dust and rain lingered. For a moment, you thought it was a cruel trick of memory until the door clicked shut behind you. He was there, no suit this time, no shadow under his eyes, just Jungkook. In a plain shirt, watching you with the same quiet intensity that had once terrified you. You came back. I told you I would eventually. You studied him in the dim light. He looked different, softer somehow, but older too, like he had fought a war no one else could see. Is it over? Yes, I made sure of it. He stepped closer slowly as if still testing the right to stand near you. The air between you felt the same charge, fragile, real. His sad distance was what kept me alive, and now I'm tired of distance. For the first time in what felt like forever, he smiled, not the faint guarded curve you had seen in class, a real one, very but true. Then I guess I can stop pretending to be your professor. He laughed quietly, the sound trembling between relief and disbelief. Outside the rain began again, not the violent downpour for that first day, but a soft drizzle against the windows. He reached out, and this time he didn't pull away. No masks, no rules, no distance. The world outside kept moving, students crossing the courtyard, voices echoing faintly, but inside that room, time stood still again. Only this time, it wasn't a mistake, it was a beginning.